Hello, everybody. My name is Susan Kudalakis, and I'm Senior Marketing Manager here at Progress. Welcome to today's webinar, Monitor More, Faster with WhatsUp Gold out-of-the-box features. And before we jump into the presentation, I wanted to introduce you to today's speakers. Larry Goldman is Senior Manager of Product Marketing for the Progress Application Experience portfolio, which includes WhatsUp Gold, Kemp Loadmaster, and Flowmon. He's a seasoned marketing leader with 20 years in enterprise software, SaaS, services, and technical B2B marketing for global organizations. Jason Alberino is Senior Product Manager for WhatsUp Gold. He began his IT career in 2005 as a systems administrator, where he was a WhatsUp Gold customer and power user before joining Ipswitch in 2013. He has 20 years of experience with WhatsUp Gold and loves to solve the problems others call impossible. I want to thank Larry and Jason for joining us today, and now I'm going to turn it over to Larry to start the presentation.
All right. Thank you, Susan, and welcome, Jason, and welcome to all of our attendees. So let's do a quick cover of the agenda for today's webinar. First, we're going to do a light high-level overview of WhatsUp Gold. Then we're going to explore the buying process and just delve into what we mean by ease of use. Then comes a live demonstration of a lot of the out-of-the-box features. I think this is going to be pretty exciting. I think it's going to be a great webcast to be able to see what we mean. And then finally, we're going to just explore other ways in which WhatsUp Gold is an easy-to-use software and how it's supported and how our community works. So we'll finish up, I think, with a few minutes of Q&A at the end. And let's delve in. So the first thing I wanted to do is just talk about WhatsUp Gold. Progress WhatsUp Gold lets you find and fix IT infrastructure problems fast through a powerful combination of out-of-box functionality, intuitive workflows, and system integrations. WhatsUp Gold has a well-earned reputation for ease of use and extensibility, and we're going to really dig into that today. The unique interactive mapping interface lets you intuitively see what's up and down, and it gives you performance at a glance for everything that's connected to your IT network. It's got customizable drag and drop dashboards, and those make it easy to see detailed status and performance of every device, both on-premise and in the cloud. This is a breakdown of just some of the most popular features that we talk about, as well as some of the monitoring solutions and the add-ons that we have. The speed to installation, something we're going to talk about today, the ability to monitor via all the standard industry protocols, the mapping interface people use, our licensing itself is also very popular. I don't think we'll get too much into that today, but we can be glad to talk about that later. The dashboarding, alerting, and just the ability to customize to what you want to see and how you want to work. We also have a powerful REST API. So we'll be covering some of the add-ons later on. It's worth noting the various things that you can monitor: cloud, hardware status, Wi-Fi, as well as configurations, working with logs, archiving logs even, monitoring your virtual infrastructure, and as well bandwidth, looking at your net flow, looking at traffic, where things are, how the flow is operating. And finally, application performance monitoring as well. So those are all key features and solutions. If we break down the software buying process, I think of it as sort of three general steps that people go through. The first of all is trying to find what products you want to look at. And we do this either through a Google search or we do it talking to our colleagues. But in the end, at the end of step one, we have a short list of products that are ones that we want to look at. It's software that we think will do the job. So the first thing we do then is we visit the websites, and invariably a software product website will tell you that it's easy to use. Now, with a critical eye, I think we have to ask the question, easy to use for who? Is this just the opinion of the software publisher, or is this something that's actually been verified through end users? And that takes us to step two, really. Because one of the things we can do today is we can look at social proof. We can visit review sites. We can see what your peers are saying. So if someone says it's easy to use, it should be easy to verify that on the review websites out there in the world. So I did a quick scan of 4 different websites, and I pulled these different reviews of WhatsUp Gold. And you can see here, great intuitive product, very easy monitoring tool. WUG makes monitoring easy. Easy to set up and maintain. People are talking all about that. And this was just a pretty quick outreach and grab and paste here. People are using words like speed. They're talking about customization. They're talking about how straightforward it is, how intuitive it is. So there's your social proof of users saying that it's easy to use. But still, I think it's worth asking, what does that really mean? And so it comes down to wanting to actually see it. And that's really step 3. So step 3, generally, if you're able to, download a trial, test it yourself, see what they mean. Is it easy to test and to trial? That's always a great first mark, okay? Another thing you can do is you can look at recorded demos. Some people may be watching this webcast for the out-of-the-box features and see what we mean when we say it's easy to use, it's faster, and so forth. With WhatsUp Gold, we have an interactive online demo you can go to as well, and that's a very quick way to get into the software and look at it. Lots of different ways to test it. What we're going to do is we're going to try and shortcut that for you, and we're going to give you a show and tell here. So we're going to go over 5 different areas that we want to talk about: installation, the discovery scans, reports, authentication, and some of the add-ons that we have. We're going to tell you it's easy to use, but then we're actually going to show it to you. And that's where Jason comes in. And I'm going to hand this over to Jason now. All right, over to you, Jason.
Thanks, Larry. So first, we're going to start with the installation of WhatsUp Gold and show you how easy it is. And you see, I'm going to actually run through the full installation process here. I'm launching the installer now, and you see it's the latest release, 22.1. When you launch it, you see the WhatsUp Gold installer includes all of the prerequisites you need as well: SQL Express, Elasticsearch, you name it. The installer kind of takes care of everything for you, so you don't have to go figure out what to install or what's needed or download other things from separate vendors. So it's going to ask for which language. I just selected English and said OK. And now we're off to the installation process. So one of the very first things we're going to see is, well, do you want a standard installation or an advanced installation? Most customers will just use the standard installation, but if you have a larger environment, you'll want to do the advanced installation. This is where you can specify your own SQL server instead of using SQL Express. So it's looking for that prerequisite software for me now. And you see it came back and says, well, we need a license key. I'll put a license key here. It activates the software instantaneously, determines what's available, and off we go. Now we have to enter a SQL Server password. I never recommend keeping the default password. That's a very poor security practice. Always use a custom password. And you see HTTPS will be used by default, and we get to assign a certificate here. So you can either generate one or select one, import one. I'm using an already generated one. This piece is important. If you're planning on using log management, you see there's a checkbox there to say, I'm not planning on using it, and to skip Elasticsearch installation. So if you are going to use log management, you will make sure to not check a box and hit next. Here, you see you can point to a secure installation of Elasticsearch, which is what we recommend. We do not recommend installing the open source version due to security concerns. However, if you're just testing log management, it's more than acceptable to just deploy the open source Elasticsearch that's included with the installer. So now it's looking at hardware requirements. I don't meet them on my virtual machine for what I'm throwing at it with log management. That's okay. It's not going to prevent me from proceeding. And there we go. The installation has started. You'll notice I did speed up the installation process a little bit here. So minutes are passing faster. This is on purpose, so we don't have to stare at the screen forever. So it's installed SQL Express, then it installed Elasticsearch, and now it's installing WhatsUp Gold. So this whole installation process here, after I condensed the installation portion here, it's the video itself is 3 minutes, but the whole installation here only took me 15 minutes. I think the actual time was 13 minutes and 28 seconds, something along those lines. But it's really that easy to install WhatsUp Gold. And you see you basically just hit next a bunch of times and fill in your credential information when it prompts for it. So the installation's finishing up now. It's initializing the website. And there we go, we're finished. So as soon as I hit finish here, it actually launches the web interface for WhatsUp Gold. So the very first thing it has me do is set the administrator password. So we set that password, and then we are going to be right within the product, ready to get started with our discoveries. And here we are, we're in the product, and now we're on to our next phase here. So now on the discovery portion, we need to add credentials first. So I'm going to log in. And there we go. We're logged in. I'm going to close out of this. And the very first thing I want to do is discover my devices. In order to do so, WhatsUp Gold requires credentials. So from the settings menu here, I'm going to libraries and then credentials. And then I would add my credentials as need be. You see, I've already done this for SNMP, Windows credentials, an SSH credential, and Redfish. But adding a credential is very simple. You just hit this plus sign, and then you select the specific credential type and fill in the information. So just for example's sake, we'll say SNMP, and I'll say, we'll just call this SNMP. And you see it asks for a description. This is optional. It asks for a read community. This is required. So say SNMP again. And then it also asks for a write community. The write community is not required unless you're planning on using SNMP set actions, which WhatsUp Gold does offer. So I can just save this and it will be added to the library here. Once within this library, well, that means it can be used all throughout WhatsUp Gold. So I actually don't want this credential. I'm going to delete him. And I'm going to go over to my discovery. So I'm going to discover and then new scan. And then you'll see it prompts me for, well, what do you want to scan? So I'm going to tell it some networks to scan here. And add some additional IPs. And I'm going to uncheck these because I already specified these in the list above. But while I'm on this page, I want to point out that you see you can do cloud discovery. You can do Azure, AWS, also Cisco Meraki. You also have the ability to use a host file, as well as rescan your existing monitored devices and automatically update them. This will become more important later when we get to that portion. Anyhow, on the expand tab here, you see by default, it's trying to expand to virtualization environments, wireless infrastructures, and storage devices. And what this loosely translates to is if we find one of those types of environments, virtualization, wireless, or storage, it's going to attempt to pull in more information about that environment if we have the correct credential. So for example, a VMware host, well, if we discover that with the proper credentials, it will pull in all of the virtual machines associated with it. A wireless controller, if we have the proper credentials, we'll pull in all of the access points associated with that wireless controller. Next, we'll go to the limit tab here. Just to point out, well, you can limit these scans if you choose to. So you can exclude things. There's a global exclusion list. You could also limit it to private networks, etc. Now, the most important tab is this credentials tab. So WhatsUp Gold requires these credentials in order to provide information about these systems. You can discover any device you want with WhatsUp Gold as long as it has an IP address. But in order to do in-depth monitoring beyond just ICMP and port checks, you need some sort of credentials. So you see, I'm telling it to use all my current and future credentials. So this will actually cycle through the credentials for me. You can also assign a priority. So I'll say, well, I know this is used more frequently than the other one. I could say use this credential first. Next, just some options here. You can send an email about the discovery if need be. And why that's important is, well, you can also schedule these. So you can schedule them to run every so often, pick up new devices on your network, as well as, remember I said earlier, automatically update your already monitored devices. But that's it. Quick setup here for a discovery scan. I have the option to just run this or save it if I want to run it again later. I'm just going to hit run. And shortly we'll see that discovery kicks off and it tells me exactly what it's going to do in the active scans here. So I have 1,537 IP addresses that I'm going to be scanning here. And it works through basically 40 at a time. So back in while this is running, back in our discovery scan settings, one of the options you may see is maximum threads. So it's not reaching out to all 1,500 devices at the same time here. What's happening is, well, it's going through 40 at a time. And as it finds those devices and they respond, you see they're in real time populating in the interface. So once it responds to the ICMP requests, we then use our credentials specified to try and identify, well, what type of device is this that's responding to us? So now that our discovery is complete, we get to select which devices we want to begin monitoring. So first and foremost, I'm going to show just some routers, switches, firewalls. So I'm going to use my filters on the left-hand side here, and I want to filter for, let's just say switches. I add that filter. Now it's only showing me switches or something with the switch sub rule, which we'll talk about more later. So here's a huge list of things. I could just select them all and say start/update monitoring. Once I select that, it's going to prompt me for which group I would like to point them to. You don't have to select a group. There's a base group, discovered devices. You could add them there, and then you just hit start. So that actually will come in as an active scan on the left as it's creating these devices to be monitored. You see devices are ready to be monitored. And on the My Network tab, you're going to see all the devices you're currently monitoring. Any given device has its properties associated with it. So let's just grab one, for example, here. I'm going to right click this device and go to device properties. And you'll see, look at all these monitors. WhatsUp Gold automatically assigned to this device for me. I didn't go create these. I didn't do anything. WhatsUp Gold dynamically found all these things directly out of the box and applied it to this system. So we're talking about literally hundreds of monitors in this case. And one of the main reasons our customers love WhatsUp Gold so much is, well, this device only takes one license. Why is that huge? Well, a lot of our competitors license per monitor, per sensor, per element. And we don't take that approach. We say go monitor anything you want on your system as need be. So directly out of the box, I'm looking at every single interface, fans, power supplies, temperature sensors, CPU, memory, and interface utilization, all the essential monitoring you would want in place on your router, switch, or firewall. So next, let's just talk about, well, what about Windows? All right, so let's, we'll go look for something Windows and get some of these added. I'll have a couple. Let's see, this one does have a good credential. I'll just grab this one and say start. And while we're here, I'll also add a BMC device. This is actually a new device role that was just in 22.1 with a lot of new monitoring options. So I'll add some of these. And how about I also add some cloud systems? Let's look for anything Azure related. So anything with an Azure credential, we'll add these. Let's start. And we'll say AWS. And we got some things here to also monitor. So you see how quickly I'm adding these new devices to be monitored within WhatsUp Gold. And really all this magic is happening in the back. So the device role is what's extremely important here. The device role dictates exactly what gets associated to the device in terms of monitoring. So now back over to My Network tab, I have quite a few more devices monitored. Let's go pull up a Windows system. And you'll see directly out of the box, we pinged the device and CPU, disk, memory utilization. And on the cloud systems, we're really just looking at the cloud portal itself, make sure it's available, but we're also looking at the cloud resource monitor. So this is actually making an API call, depending on if it's AWS or Azure, to see if the resource is powered on and available. We also get things like virtual machine CPU usage from Azure and AWS, etc. Okay, so last but not least here, we're going to talk about these BMC devices. So what exactly is a BMC? Well, it's baseboard management controller. That's something attached to servers. It's a separate device on a server, usually for controlling power, but it also provides a bunch of information to us. So using the Redfish standard, we're able to look at everything about this system, the disks within it, individual disk health. So if any of these disks were to fail, we would be notified. We're looking at all the fans in the system, all of the memory modules, all of the power supplies, all processors, temperature sensors, and RAID volume health. So we're literally looking at every single thing relevant to this system from the baseboard management controller perspective. So even if the underlying operating system was not online or working, well, we'd still be able to get this information. That's why this is so huge, is we're separating the hardware from the operating system in terms of the monitoring perspectives. Now that you've seen what comes directly out of the box with WhatsUp Gold, let's switch over to reporting. So what reports are available directly out of the box with WhatsUp Gold? For this, I'm going to use a separate environment that's been collecting data a bit longer. I'll switch over there now. And I'm going to use the Analyze tab. So the Analyze tab shows you all of the different reports WhatsUp Gold has to offer you, as well as any logs and tools, etc. An important note here before I start going into the reports is you don't always have to remember how to navigate to these items. You can also search for navigation items. So if I didn't know how to get to the CPU utilization report, I could just type CPU here and oh, look, there it is. Just clicking the report here brings you to the exact same report as if you were to browse from Analyze, Performance, and then CPU. So this is what we call a full page report within WhatsUp Gold. Any full page report can be pointed at a group of devices or individual devices, as well as certain time periods. And you can apply business hours to exclude information outside of those business hours. In addition to that, you'll notice if I select any column, there's a little drop down, and that has the ability to add or remove columns. In this case, this report already has all the columns turned on. You also can filter. So if I'm looking for maybe a certain CPU, certain interface, I can just type that name, and then the list will update with all of those items. And you see it shows me I have a filter applied right there. I'll clear this filter. I also want to point out the settings. So every report has settings. And you see the CPU one, you can have this by individual CPU or by device. I prefer by device. So you see we have in the background here, this one system has 2 separate processors. This system has many different processors. If I switch this to go by device, well, then it's going to aggregate those together. And you see total 4 processors here, and here's the average across those 4 processors. In addition to that, some reports allow you to apply thresholds. This is one of them. So I could say, well, maybe I only want to see things that are over 70% utilized. I apply that filter and there it is. There's the one item. These same rules apply across all the full page reports. Something else to keep in mind. So export. You have the ability to export to HTML, Excel, CSV, or text. You also have the ability to schedule the export. So I can schedule this to be sent every so often to whatever email addresses I choose and on whichever schedule I choose. So we've been looking at groups of devices up until this point. I'm going to filter by this individual device. And why I'm doing that is to show, well, once you're filtered on an individual device, you can get a chart of the usage over time. Right now I have last polled. If I switch this to today, you see a chart over time of the usage. All right, so that is the CPU report. Let's take a quick look at the disk utilization report here. And very similar premise, you're able to select devices, time periods, business hours, and you see settings in the same exact place. You have the ability to apply thresholds here as well, export as well. So the same general structure all throughout the application. So in this case, well, once again, if I want to see an individual system, I can hit the ellipses, filter by a certain device, see more information about that specific system, even look at it over time and all of its volumes. So you see this one has many different volumes. Well, I can still look at them all at the same time or on the same graph. In addition to that, you have the ability to set up alerts around this type of information. We're not going to cover that in today's webinar, but that is something that's important, right? You want to know things like this is 100% utilized. We have a problem here. Notifying yourself about these types of issues is one of the reasons why you would want WhatsUp Gold. There would be no way to know this information unless you went and looked for it yourself without WhatsUp Gold. So WhatsUp Gold pulls in all this information and keeps it up to date and gives you that one-stop shop dashboard to show what's going on with your environment. And I purposely am transitioning to dashboards now. So on the dashboard, the home dashboard here, you'll notice that you can have as many different views as you'd like. So each one of these little tabs appears, we just call it a view. And you see you can add a new view. These views are specific to the user. So every single user can have their own set of dashboards, but you can also share dashboards between each other. Now, why is this important? Well, we can see that same type of information we were just looking at in the full page report. We could see multiple reports on the same page at the same time. So maybe I want CPU utilization, disk utilization, and memory utilization all on the same page. That's where the dashboards come in. These dashboards can be anywhere from 1 to 4 columns, and you could add or remove reports. So you see I hit add reports in the top right here, and then it gives you a list of all these reports. Once again, there's a search. If you don't know exactly how to browse for something, you could always search for it and the list will populate. Just for example's sake, let's say I want to add another disk utilization report to column 1. And the report gets added to the dashboard here. Once again, you still have controls on all of those columns. You could add or remove columns. You could change settings, point at specific devices, groups of devices, and also change settings within here. By default, this is only showing 10. Maybe I want to show 20, and I only want to show things over 90%. And that way, you have a heads-up dashboard for what's going on within your environment. Now, there are multiple different types of dashboards within WhatsUp Gold. And another important one I'm going to point at today is the device status dashboard. So the big difference with the device status dashboard is, well, it's pointing at an individual device. It's no longer a group of devices. So this specific device is what's currently selected. And as I switch through the tabs, it's only going to show me information relevant to that specific device. You can also switch between devices here. And there's multiple different ways to get to this report. So just switching back to my network quick, if I sort by status, I can see I have some down monitors. Well, when I have a down monitor, you'll see I can quickly see how long it's been down, as well as why it was labeled down. And I have easy controls to get to device status right from here, either from the navigation item here, or right-clicking the device and going to device status. So I'm not going to talk about all of the dashboards today, but just note there are many different types of dashboards within WhatsUp Gold, and they are specific to the user. So the next thing I want about today is authentication to WhatsUp Gold. You'll see that I'm currently logged in as the admin user. Well, that's a built-in user in WhatsUp Gold. So WhatsUp Gold, you can create kind of one-off users here and add them as need be, just internal authentication stored in the WhatsUp Gold database. But you have many other options aside from there. And you see LDAP, Cisco ACS listed here. So any LDAP system will work. We also have the ability to integrate to Active Directory as well as OpenID compliant systems. So quickly, system settings, external authentication, you'll see how to set up those two different things. For Active Directory, it's as simple as specifying your Active Directory domain name is what I recommend. It calls out domain controller here, but I recommend you specify your domain name. Well, then it will select any domain controller within your environment that is responding. And then you just tell it the simple name to log in. So let's say you log into your system with domain/username. Well, the simple login domain would be domain here. But that's it. Once you connect it back to your domain, you then can browse Active Directory groups and assign that Active Directory group to be able to log in as a WhatsUp Gold user group. This method prevents you from having to create a user account for each individual user. If you're using the LDAP route where you create individual LDAP users, well, you are then forced to go through and create each one of those users. With the Active Directory route, you're able to just add users to that group within Active Directory, and they're automatically able to log into WhatsUp Gold. So same general premise for the OpenID external authentication. So if we go over to OpenID authentication setup, you see actually I already have this one set up on the system. You basically just have to specify a bunch of different information. However, we did add it so it automatically fills a vast majority of this information. All you need is your client ID and issue a URL. and then you hit auto config here, and it fills in all these other dialogues for you. Well, once that's done, just like with Active Directory, you specify an OpenID group, and then what group in WhatsUp Gold that user or OpenID group can log in as. That being said, what we're looking at here is actually an Azure Active Directory. So I connect it back to Azure Active Directory and I could log in using my domain credentials that way. Okay, so I think that covers authentication pretty well. Obviously, you saw there are some more options, but we're not covering them all today. All right, on to add-ons for WhatsUp Gold. So WhatsUp Gold itself, everything we've shown up to right now has been kind of out of the box functionality with just the premium edition of WhatsUp Gold, which comes with no add-ons. There is also the Total Plus edition of WhatsUp Gold, which comes with all of the add-ons, and then you get to allocate points to add-ons as necessary. So today, let's talk about log management and configuration management and traffic analysis. So first, for the log management, this very, very simple to set up. Under settings, log management, log data source setup. You'll see that I already have some systems added here. You have multiple different options when adding these systems. So if I go add a new one, you see I could do Windows event logs or syslogs here. And then I could tell it which devices I would like to collect logs from. WhatsUp Gold's smart enough to show only things that are eligible to pull back those Windows event logs. And it actually tells me how many logs each one of these systems has. So if I wanted this one, it's got 73 logs. I just select it and then hit select here. And it will give me the option of either central collector or WhatsUp Gold agent. We recommend using the agent. This takes a lot of the processing off of the WhatsUp Gold server and offloads it to the other system to pass along those event logs as need be. So if I say agent, it actually automatically deploys that agent for you. So I go next here, it's going to ask me which logs. There's also ingestion filters that you can also customize. So you come out of the box with either all critical and error or critical error warning. So say specific logs here, and then every single log from the system, including kind of those hidden Windows event logs, shows up in here. So you could collect from those as well. I'm just going to keep the defaults, add this device, and that's it. Now I'm collecting logs on that system going forward. So once you began collecting data from the device, you're able to easily see information about it from the log management dashboard, as well as from the log viewer. So you see this one device I have added, it's getting about 0.003 events per second, not much coming in from this device. But we also see overall information about my Elasticsearch environment in terms of how much disk space is available, how much is used, how much free, what the log sizes are, etc. Moving on to the log viewer. The log viewer allows you to kind of drill into those events, see exactly what's going on. And you see I have no filters applied, so it's just showing me everything for the past 30 minutes. Using the advanced filters, you can get to errors quickly or certain log information more quickly. If I go create a new filter, you'll see that you can match on pretty much anything you could think of when it comes to what would be contained within a log message. And you could also add multiple criterias. You could also add multiple filter groups and or between them. Very easy to set up, as well as you'll notice at the bottom right-hand corner, you could create a threshold for this alert. So basically what that does is you get information emailed to you about this when this criteria is matched. You don't have to go looking for it. So from the log viewer here, if I expand any of these, I can see the entire log message, exactly where it came from, what time it came in, what system it came from, type of log, etc. And I, once again, have the option to add or remove columns from my reports. I can also easily search this report if I was just looking for, I don't know, let's just say error. It will find anything with error in the message specified somewhere. And you see error code, so it found this. In addition to that, you can also search for logs in the global search here. So if I check this box, I can go search and say error, and it's going to find all of those log results. I can go right to that log result from there. It's going to give me that filter automatically as well in order to find that data. All well and good. So log management really is for collecting those Windows event logs as well as sys logs and archiving them. That's the end goal. All right, now let's talk about network traffic analysis. So network traffic analysis goes above and beyond what WhatsUp Gold does directly out of the box, which was interface utilization and interface traffic. So those are just totals, right? Traffic analysis goes a step above that and tells you what that traffic is, not just the totals. So you see I'm on the traffic analysis dashboard and it gets down to the individual conversation level. We could also see top applications. We could see top endpoints. Who's actually passing the most bandwidth on the network? Using this tool allows you to get to the root cause of that dreaded question. Why is the network slow? So you ever get that question, just think, well, if I had traffic analysis, I'd be able to tell them the answer straight away. But going through this, the traffic analysis actually supports many different what we call flow protocols. So obviously there's NetFlow from Cisco, but there's also SFlow, IPFix, JFlow. There's a lot of different protocols. We support all of them. Really all you need to do is configure your device to send us that data, and these reports automatically begin populating. Just like other WhatsUp Gold dashboards, you're able to add views, modify them, there's unique to the user, etc. You can set up alerts around any of this type of data. One of the most common ones I see people looking at is like the top sender and receiver domains. So it will actually tell you which domains users in your environment are hitting. Maybe someone's streaming a bunch of videos or music from somewhere. You would be able to see that within here. All right, so now I want to talk about config management a bit. Config management actually is for backing up network configurations. It can be customized, and you can also use it for, let's say, changing passwords periodically. Setting up is very simple. From settings menu here, I'm going config management, then task library. Settings, config management, task library. And I'm going to create a new task. This will be a scheduled task. If I wanted to change passwords periodically, I would use a password task. So let's go and make a scheduled task. So here's the new scheduled task dialog. You just need to give it a name. I usually will name it whatever it's doing. In this case, we'll say backup running config. And then we tell it which script to run. And you see out of the box, we have either startup or running config. However, you can add your own scripts as well. Keep that in mind. You are not limited in any way to this. So I'll back up running config. And then it's going to ask me, well, how many do I want to keep? I'll keep the default of 5. Keep in mind, this is the number of unique backups to keep. So if I back up the same configuration 2 days in a row, well, that's still going to count as just one because nothing changed. So then I just need to specify, well, which devices do I want to back up? I made a handy test group so I can add all of them at the same time. And these are all the devices. I think some of these will indeed fail, but that's okay. It's not going to prevent this task from running. You have the option to specify if you want a threshold or not. So you can get alerted if it detects changes, fails to run, or if it successfully runs, as well as run it against industry standard audit policies. So I can come in here and say, well, maybe I want to do PCI against these for Cisco. In addition to that, you can make your own policy. So if you have some sort of internal mandates you're trying to meet, you can make your own policy and make sure all your configurations are meeting them. Finally, I want to point out that you can include exactly what was changed in the configuration. So your email can actually show what was either added or removed from that configuration. For now, I'm not going to set up a threshold. Last option here is just scheduling. So I'm not going to schedule it either. I'm just going to go ahead and run it. So I'm going to select that task, say run now, and then run, and then I can kick it off immediately. Obviously, in a production environment, you would want to schedule this to run every so often. Once this completes, I can review the results, and also all of those configurations get stored with the devices within WhatsUp Gold. So now that the task has actually completed, you see it says run failed. If I go to results, well, I can see that some succeeded and some failed. If any do fail, it will actually tell you exactly why. So this one actually tells us, well, it got to the show run command and, well, it wasn't even able to log in. So there, it gives you that information you need to figure out why maybe a script did not run for that device, or if it's failing login, etc. But let's grab one of these. We'll say this HP, UT-HP 2626. I just want to show, well, it gets stored with the device. And WhatsUp Gold, I'll go search for that. What was it? I already forgot it. UT-HP 2626. There it is. So I click on that device and device properties comes up. Then on the tasks tab is where you would see that backup. So you see this is the task associated to that device. You can also add this device to additional tasks if you have them. And then you can view your configuration right from here. You can also export to XML or text. If I edit this, it will actually pull up the real config, and you could copy and paste from here as need be, as well as choose whether or not to retain it indefinitely. So it would no longer be subject to those 5 backups I had it limited to previously. In addition to that, if you have more than one configuration, you're able to select them both and compare. You're also able to do that across multiple devices. So if I switch over to Analyze, Config Management, and then Config Archives, if I select 2 devices and then hit Compare, I'm able to see the differences between those configurations and even scroll right to where those are. So you see I can just hit this arrow and it's going to show me where all those differences are, whether that be, well, there's some extra lines here or some extra lines on the other side. Right, and that's the quick run through of config management. We do also have other add-ons. I'm not going to run through all of them today. The virtual monitoring add-on allows you to get more in-depth information from VMware and Hyper-V environments. And the application monitoring add-on allows you to monitor things from the application perspective as opposed to the device perspective, and comes with many pre-built profiles for monitoring common applications. Okay. I think I've covered everything in the show and tell now. I guess it's time to turn it back over to you, Larry.
Okay, thanks, Jason. I think that is quite the show and tell. We've seen installation, discovery scans, reports, authentication, and now the add-ons, all of which you've done to emphasize how easy it is to customize, how there's the autofill of information. Even the add-ons represent advanced functionality that's easy to access. So I'd like to just quickly touch on our latest version, 22.1. We have several features in there that are now out of the box that used to be manual. And again, this is where we go with the product. Every time we come out with a new release, we listen to our users. We also look at how people are using the software, and quite a lot of what we do, we either try to automate it or we try and make it easier from the start. So hardware status monitoring, for example, the tools that you use, the MIBs you use for discovering and monitoring, as well as being able to import and export device roles. These are all new with version 2022.1. They come in WhatsUp Gold, and they just make everything that much easier to monitor more faster. But I think it's important to note that beyond just the functionality that Jason showed and we walked through, easy also means how is the software supported? What resources do you have? And with WhatsUp Gold, we've got those too. For example, we have free on-demand basic training. It's about 8 hours, but anyone who's a user can sign up and take that basic training. We have a lot of how-to documentation. It's kind of like having your own Jason Alberino online, and those can be installation guides, those can be how-to guides. There's a tremendous amount that we've built over the years. You're not alone when you're using WhatsUp Gold. We have an active community. You can see here on the side, I've got a screenshot of our general discussion section. People are very active there, exchanging notes, exchanging ideas and tips. You can also make enhancements requests. Part of why WhatsUp Gold is easy to use is because we listen to our users. We have a customer validation program that customers can join and be able to vote and make suggestions based on how they're using the software and how they would like us to help them to further advance that, whether it's out of the box, whether it's autofill, whether it's easier ways to customize. We listen to our customers. And finally, we have global support, and that allows you to, when you do need help, easily access that. So let's just summarize. We've said that WhatsUp Gold lets you monitor more faster. We said it in the beginning. I showed you our customers are saying it, and now you've seen it thanks to Jason. It's got the technical depth you need, but it's also a product that's proven to make your job that much easier. It's easy to install and run. We've shown that, to discover the networks, to access, schedule, customize reports and set alerts. The workflows can be automated as much as you want. And then we find as well, we try and make it as easy as possible to work with Progress for your purchase support needs. So with that, I recommend, if you haven't tried WhatsUp Gold, you can download a free trial today or reach out to us. We're always glad to do additional live demos. And that covers what we had planned for today. Is there anything you'd like to add, Jason?
No, Larry, I think we can get to questions.
Okay, then. When we do have quite a few questions, we have a great audience, and they have been submitting questions into the Q&A box all along. Let's get into a couple of the technical questions here. Here's one from John. Can I create a blank page and add devices manually by IP address instead of using the discovery? What's your, you and I have talked about this, I don't know, for on and off for a while. What's your take on this one, Jason?
So although you can do this with WhatsUp Gold, I wouldn't suggest it or recommend it. Really, that discovery process does a whole ton of work for you, so you don't have to. If you wanted to do this, though, you absolutely could. So you can just specify, like, use a host file, give the discovery no credentials, and then it can't really discover anything because it doesn't have the credentials to do so. There are alternative methods as well, like we have a REST API, and you could programmatically get devices added to monitoring, for example. But I'd be curious to know why you want to skip the discovery process, if you could follow up in the QA panel.
All right. Here's one from Ismail. Oh, he's left, but I think maybe people would want to know this one, answer to this one. Do we have an application monitor for Exchange 2019?
Indirectly, yes. So on our community forum actually is where you find some application profiles, and the one for Exchange 2016 is out there, and it's mostly reusable for 2019 without modification. So just load it to your application monitoring instance and off you go.
All right. I'm not sure if this question is deceptively easy to answer, but Alex is asking, is WUG able to plot network maps? Is that different from our topology maps?
No, we didn't show that during the demonstration, but yes, while we were showing the discovery, it was populating in real time, right? I just had the list view shown. There was a map view as well. While the discovery is running, the maps build in real time as it's running. So once you add those devices, each group within WhatsUp Gold has its own network map associated with it as well, both from an automatic layout perspective based on what the discovery had found, as well as the custom layout perspective. So you could customize those maps and add your own links or drawings, etc. I know a lot of people like to put images of their buildings and lay things out within the building, etc. So there's a lot of creative things you could do with the built-in topology mapping that WhatsUp Gold offers.
Great. I'm glad you covered that, because that is, yeah, that's another out-of-the-box feature right there as it builds, as it finishes the discovery. Here's one from Brian. Thanks, Jason, for the overview. Any chance you could go over device dependency?
Yeah, so device dependencies, it kind of ties into the topology mapping we were just talking about. So when WhatsUp Gold does its discovery, it's also kind of automatically figuring out where your dependencies are. So once that topology map is built and you start monitoring your devices, you can just kind of right-click your root device in your topology map and say set as dependency root, and WhatsUp Gold would automatically apply all those dependencies for you in a layered fashion, hop to hop as need be. You also have the ability to do that directly from device properties on a specific device. So you can say, well, only monitor this device if another device is up, or only monitor this device if another device is down. So you have both up and down dependencies available to you. In addition to that, you can also do this in bulk. So let's say you didn't want to use what's in the topology map for whatever reason. You have the ability to select multiple devices either in the list or map view and right click and say edit devices, and you could set dependencies in bulk. So in the case you're describing, it sounds like, well, you just don't want alerts from things connected to that switch. I would, if you don't already, I would create a layer 2 group with that switch and show what's connected to it, and just right click the switch and say set as dependency root. And that's it. All your dependencies are set for you. But okay. So one of the ones I see here is how can I monitor HPE ILO management board to see for failed controllers. So this was sort of covered in the demonstration on the Redfish portion. So Redfish is a standard that many vendors support, including HP. They only began supporting it with ILO 4 though. So if you're not on ILO 4 or above, you're not going to be able to take advantage of this. But quite literally, all you do is supply that same username and password you use to log into your ILO interface and add it as a Redfish credential in WhatsUp Gold, and WhatsUp Gold takes care of the rest. So I think we could say that one is answered. Let's see what else we have here. So the next one we have was, we had some switches that moved to a different campus and they now have a new IP and a new name. What's the best way to get that device to update in WhatsUp Gold? I also needed to move groups. So really the easiest way to update a device with the newest information once its IP is changed is to remove it from monitoring and then rediscover and add it back. And the reason being is there's certain information that the discovery doesn't update once you begin monitoring a device, and that includes things like the IP address and the name of the device. Alternative to that method of removing it and rediscovering it, let's say you didn't want to lose the history, that would, I think, be the only reason you wouldn't want to go that route. You can manually go change that and update it within WhatsUp Gold, and it should work just fine. However, you'll have to do that, one by one, as opposed to maybe having the discovery do it for you. So right from this device properties, you can edit the network interfaces associated with the device and update the main IP address to whatever the new one is, as well as update that name. Let's see. Can you tell us what new features we can expect for WUG version 2023? I love this question because it lets me plug our customer validation program. whatsupgold.com/CVP. This is where we put all our pre-release information. All you need to do is sign up to a community account on community.progress.com, then go to whatsupgold.com/CVP and click ask to join. As long as you're a customer with a license, we'll admit you into there, and you literally get insights into everything we're working on currently. Not only that, we encourage you to provide your feedback while we're working on it so we can make it the best way to suit your specific use cases. Is it possible to search for security event IDs from domain controllers, group membership changes, for example? So yes, and in multiple different ways. So WhatsUp Gold, the core product, WhatsUp Gold Premium Edition, you can use what's called a passive monitor to collect Windows events. However, if you're collecting things like that from domain controllers, we highly recommend using our log management add-on. Reason being is, well, they store the data a lot differently from one another. If you want to be able to easily search through those events, I would highly recommend going the log management route there. Oh my goodness, there's so many questions left. Do we have time for, how much do we have time for?
Like maybe one or two more. If folks haven't gotten an answer because there are so many, we'll gather all these up together and have folks get back to you after the event.
I see one more here that I want to point out. Someone asked about multi-factor authentication. And yes, you can use multi-factor authentication with WhatsUp Gold, but you have to do it by using our OpenID integration. So remember during the demo I showed I'm connected to our Azure Active Directory. Well, we require two-factor authentication. So the login process to WhatsUp Gold also requires it. So indirectly, you can get multi-factor authentication in WhatsUp Gold.
I think that's all the time that we have for today. There are so many questions. We'll capture all of these. We wanted to thank everybody for joining us today, and we'll get back to you post-event. And for those who have joined, we are going to be sending out a copy of the recording. So we thank you all for joining, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.